Hello everyone, welcome to our channel iTeach. So today we are going to discuss an important topic of general studies, that is polity. And in polity we'll be discussing today nation and state, constitution, framing of the Indian constitution, and then nature of the Indian constitution and sources of Indian constitution. So, if we talk about nation and state, we'll have to understand the concept of nation and state first. So, what is nation? Nation is basically a cultural entity, group of people having feeling of oneness. Nation building is in the minds of the people, means it is a mental concept. Feeling of group of people means feeling of oneness and proud. So feeling of oneness and proud makes a nation. So nation building is a long ongoing process. Until the existence of state, this concept will go on. If we talk about state, state is basically a political entity having four characteristics. First is territory, second is people or citizen of the territory, third is government of that territory, and sovereignty. You can say that state is a polity under a system of governance. According to Max Weber, it is a polity that maintains a monopoly on the legitimate use of violence. Some states are sovereign, known as sovereign states, while others are subject to external sovereignty or hegemony, wherein supreme authority lies in another state. Let's take some example of nation and state. If we talk about one nation and two states, its examples are Korea and Germany, because Korea is a nation having two states, North Korea and South Korea, and Germany a nation, earlier East Germany and West Germany. If we take the example of one state, two nation, it is Sri Lanka. Means Sri Lanka is a state, but there are Tamilians and Sinhalese. They both are having different kind of oneness. So this is one state, two nation example. And if we talk about nation with no state, its example is Palestine, because Palestine is a nation, but there is no state because they don't have any territory or government or sovereignty. That's why they are nation with no state. So every country's ultimate aim is to make a nation state, means boundary of people, feeling and boundary of state is same. So nation state example is Japan. India wants to be a nation state. India is a state with many nations inside. India as a country came first, and then we are trying to create a nation. So India is a young nation in making. If we talk about a state's territory, there are two types of people in a territory: citizens and aliens. Citizens are those who enjoy full rights or membership in a society, and aliens are basically of two types: friendly aliens and enemy aliens. And aliens are those who don't have full rights, and they are basically friendly aliens, means people with allies, friendly countries, and enemy aliens means people are from those countries we are at war with them. So if we talk about citizenship, so citizens get citizenship, and citizenship is basically a concept of democracy. In a kingdom there are subjects, but fundamental difference is that citizens participating in decision making, whereas subjects are just affected by decisions. If we talk about sovereignty, sovereignty is undisputed legal authority over the people and the territory, or power to take independent decisions. No outside guidance or pressure, not subject to any influence or oppression. For example, if we talk about Indo-nuclear deal, it was extremely criticized by some groups, and it was said that it is against the sovereignty of India. But at that time, the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh said that it is his sovereign right to enter into the deal to reap the benefits. There are two conditions of sovereignty. First is external recognition is required, and second is sovereignty is not absolute in practice. So, what does it mean? External recognition is required means recognition from the rest of the world and especially from the UN. For example, Kosovo declared its independence in 2000 but not accepted by the world and UN. Taiwan, for example, is doing the same, but it's not a sovereign state because China says it's not a sovereign state, it is the integral part of the China. Actually, Taiwan was accepted by few small nations but not UN. That's why it is not still a sovereign state. If we talk about absolute in practice, sovereignty is actually not absolute in practice. For example, UN, Commonwealth, SAARC, WTO, all these organizations, if a sovereign country join these organizations, after entering it into these organizations, once we don't have absolute power, we are abide by that organization's rule. Another example is globalization. As we are moving further into the globalization, we are losing our sovereignty. If we talk about government, so what is government? Government is a set of institutions and individuals occupying these institutions and procedures for constituting these institutions for the exercise of power. State exercise sovereignty over the territory and people through the government. So government is an essential organ of the state. Means first state and then government. State has sovereignty but government has limited powers. Means we can criticize the government but we can't criticize the state. Opposition to government is legitimate. Now let's understand the constitution. So what is constitution? Constitution is a supreme fundamental law of the country which not only defines the framework of the basic political principles but also establishes what the different government institutions should do in terms of procedures, process, and powers. The parliament cannot override it because the constitution was created by a special constituent assembly and it enjoys a special legal sanctity and also contains the faith and aspiration of the people. A constitution is the vehicle of the nation's progress. Therefore, we can say that a constitution is the fundamental law of the state containing the principles upon which government is founded, regulating the division of the sovereign powers and directing to what persons each of these power to be confined and the manner in which it is to be exercised. But constitution is different from constitutionalism because constitutionalism is a set of political value and inspiration that reflects the desire to protect liberty through the establishment of internal and external checks on government powers. That is, constitutionalism is a species of political liberalism. Thus, constitution is a compromise between rights of the people and powers of the government. We don't want absolute power with government and absolute rights with the people. So, to control the absolute power and absolute right, we have constitution. Constitution is not static, rather it is dynamic. So, we can amend the constitution through Article 368. Constitution can be written and cannot be written. Means, if we take example, UK still have unwritten constitution. Why it's like that? That Britishers have unwritten constitution? Because Britishers have a different sense of heritage and history. They cherish their history. Britishers are protecting this unwrittenness where their democracy started. In 1214, by writing of Magna Carta regarding the then rights of the people, it was first written document in the world. Since in UK there is unwritten constitution, the parliament is supreme, and in India constitution is supreme, where every organ draws its authority from constitution. Thus India has two types of laws: constitutional laws, more difficult to change, and other is ordinary laws, easy to change. Constitutional laws is not there in UK. Only ordinary laws is there in UK. So there is only ordinary law in UK, and hence unwritten constitution is the most flexible law. So if we talk about history of Indian constitution, I have already discussed it in our previous lecture. So you can get the link from the description box below. Hello friends, welcome to our channel iTeach. So we'll talk about today framing of Indian Constitution. Our next topic is framing of Indian Constitution. So in this topic we'll talk about making of Indian Constitution, composition of Constituent Assembly, working of the Constituent Assembly, and committees of the Constituent Assembly. So in 1934, for the first time, by M.N. Roy, the idea of a Constituent Assembly for India was put forward. And in 1935, Indian National Congress, that is INC, for the first time officially demanded a Constituent Assembly to frame the Constitution of India. Therefore, in 1938, Jawaharlal Nehru, on behalf of INC, declared that the Constitution of Free India must be framed without outside interference by a Constituent Assembly elected on the basis of adult franchise. Demand was finally accepted in principle by the British government in what is known as August Offer in 1940, and in 1942 Sir Stafford Cripps, who was the member of cabinet, came to India with a draft proposal of the British government on the framing of an independent constitution to be adopted after the World War II. So he came, but his proposal was rejected by Muslim League because Muslim League wanted India to be divided into two autonomous states, that is India and Pakistan, and with two separate constituent assemblies. Finally, cabinet mission was sent to India, and cabinet mission rejected the two constituent assemblies. It put forth a scheme for the constituent assembly which more or less satisfied the Muslim League. As we have studied, that Constituent Assembly was created as a result of Cabinet Mission Plan of 1946. So initially Constituent Assembly was not a sovereign body because they were asked to work within the limits of the Cabinet Mission Plan. That's why they were not sovereign. I mean, the Constituent Assembly was not sovereign. Cabinet Mission Plan, there was no concept of partition of country. There was a category of Indian states like A, B and C, and after independence the Constituent Assembly became sovereign. So it is asked often that whether the Constituent Assembly was sovereign or not. There were two kinds of members in Constituent Assembly. First is elected or indirectly from the British province, and second is nominated by princely states. So the total strength of the Constituent Assembly was to be 389. Of these, 296 seats were to be allotted to British India and 93 seats to be to the princely states. Means 296 plus 93. Out of 296 seats allotted to the British India, 292 members were to be drawn from the 11 governors provinces and 4 from the 4 chief commissioner provinces, one from each. So finally, there were 229 members from the British provinces and 70 members from the princely states, and that is total was 299 members. Earlier, before independence, it was 389, as we have already studied. So if we talk about working of the Constituent Assembly, so on December 9, 1946, the Constituent Assembly held its first meeting, and Muslim League boycotted the meeting because Muslim League insisted on a separate state of Pakistan. So they boycotted. So the meeting was thus attended only by 211 members, and Dr. Sachidanand Sinha was elected as the temporary president of the assembly because he was at that time the oldest member. So later on December 11, 1946, Rajendra Prasad and H.C. Mukherjee, they both were elected as the president and vice president of the assembly respectively. And Sir B.N. Rao was appointed as the constitutional advisor to the assembly. And on December 13, 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru moved the historic objective resolution in the assembly. It laid down the fundamentals and philosophy of the constitutional structure. It was passed by Nehru himself. The objective resolution actually passed by Nehru himself. So he was the pioneer, visionary. Even his speeches in the first meeting was taken as the objective resolution itself. This objective resolution was unanimously adopted by the assembly on January 22nd, 1947. So it influenced the eventual shaping of the constitution through all its subsequent stages. Its modified version forms the preamble of the present constitution. The Constituent Assembly also performs some of the important functions, like it ratified the India's membership of the Commonwealth in May 1949. It also adopted the national flag on July 22nd, 1947. It adopted the national anthem on January 24, 1950, and also the very same day it adopted the national song, and on that day only Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as the first president of India. So these are some functions performed by assembly, and but they are also very important. Finally, the Constituent Assembly had 11 sessions over 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. The constitution makers had gone through the constitution of about 60 countries, and the draft constitution was considered for 114 days. On 24th January 1950, the Constituent Assembly held its final session, and on January 26, 1950, till the formation of new parliament after the first general election in 1951-52, the assembly continued as the provisional parliament of India. For dealing with different tasks of the constitution making, the Constituent Assembly appointed a number of committees. Out of these, 8 were major committees and others were minor committees. So first of all, we'll take major committees. First is Union Power Committee, Union Constitution Committee, and State Committee. These 3 committees were headed by Jawaharlal Nehru. Rules of Procedures Committee and Steering Committee were headed by Rajendra Prasad. Advisory Committee, Fundamental Right, Tribals, Minority and Excluded Subjects Committee were headed by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and Drafting Committee was headed by B.R. Ambedkar. Also, the Provincial Constitution Committee was headed by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So, if we talk about some minor committees, House Committee and Committee on Chief Commissioners Provinces were headed by Pattabhi Sitaramaiah. Ad hoc Committee on National Flag and Finance and Staff Committee was headed by Rajendra Prasad. and common committees on functions of Constituent Assembly was headed by G.V. Mavlankar. So these were some major and minor committees of Constituent Assembly. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar introduced the final draft of the Constitution in the Assembly on 4th November 1948, and the motion on draft constitution was declared as passed on November 26, 1949. The constitution as adopted on November 26, 1949 contained a preamble, 395 articles and 8 schedules. Some provisions of the constitution pertaining to citizenship, elections, provisional parliament, temporary and transitional provisions, and short titles came into force on November 26, 1949 itself. The remaining provisions of the Constitution came into force on January 26, 1950. The January 26 was specifically chosen as the date of commencement of the Constitution because of its historical importance. Because we know that it was on this day in 1930 the Purna Swaraj Day was declared following the resolution of the Lahore session, that is December 1929 of the INC. So the critics have criticized the Constituent Assembly on various grounds as well. Their grounds were the Constitution is not a representative body. It is not a sovereign body. It is time consuming, dominated by Congress. Also, it was dominated by politicians, dominated by Hindus, etc. So this was all about framing of the Constitution. Hello friends, how are you all? Welcome to our channel, I Teach. So today's topic is very interesting. It's salient feature of the Indian Constitution or nature of the Indian Constitution. So the Constitution of India is a very dynamic creation of our lawmakers. The Constitution of India, as we all know, is a supreme law of the country, and every citizen of our country has to abide by the Constitution. So the Indian Constitution is unique in its content and spirit. Though borrowed from almost every constitution of the world, the Constitution of India has several salient features that distinguishes it from the constitutions of other countries. So if we talk about the lengthiest written constitution, why is it lengthiest? So generally the form of the constitution is small. Only main points are mentioned in it and the rest is left for the interpretation, as we can say is there in the Britain. But the Constitution of India is an exception. The form of the constitution is neither small nor very big. It contains all the necessary points in it. The original form of constitution include 22 chapters, 395 articles and 9 schedules. But later these has been increased along with amendments. That is why we can say that 4 factors have contributed to the elephantine size of our constitution. So first is geographical factor, that is the vastness of our country and its diversity. Second is, you can say, historical factor, that is the influence of the Government of India Act of 1935, which was bulky. Third is single constitution for both the center and the states except Jammu and Kashmir at that time. And the last one is dominance of legal luminaries in the Constituent Assembly. So to elaborate a bit, we can say that it is bulky because diversity of the culture, state constitution has also been written, administrative procedures have been written, also special needs and provisions for SC, ST, OBC minorities are also written there. And constitution makers had experience of working all of the constitution at that time. That and its drawbacks as well. So these were the reason of being our constitution so bulky and lengthiest. If we can say in the words of Sir Ivor Jennings, he said that the Constitution of India is biggest and detailed constitution of the world, but critics say it is the heaven of lawyers. If we talk about the second feature of the Indian Constitution, it is said that it has been drawn from various sources and mainly from the Government of India Act 1935. So the structure part of the constitution is large extent derived from Government of India Act of 1935. But the philosophical part of the constitution, that is the fundamental rights and the directive principles of the state policy. These two are the philosophical part of our constitution, derive their inspiration from the American and Irish constitution respectively. And the political part of the constitution have been largely drawn from British constitution. So we can say that our constitution is basically divided into, you can say broadly divided into three parts: the structural part, philosophical part and political part. And the other provisions of the constitution have been drawn from the constitution of Canada, Australia, Germany, USSR, etc., that we will be studying later. So, however, the criticism that the Indian constitution is a borrowed constitution, a patchwork, and contains nothing new and original in it is actually unfair and illogical, because the framers of the constitution made necessary modifications in the features borrowed from other constitution, and at that time avoiding their faults. So that was the best thing they could do at that time. So next feature is, it is blend of rigidity and flexibility. So if it is said that the Constitution of India is neither strictly rigid nor strictly flexible, then it should not be an exaggerate statement. So what is rigid and what is flexible? So rigid constitution is one that requires a special procedure for its amendment, as for example the American Constitution. And what is flexible? A flexible constitution is, on the other hand, one that can be amended in the same manner as the ordinary laws are made, as for example the British Constitution. Therefore, the Constitution of India is synthesis of both. Article 368 provides for two types of amendment. Some provisions can be amended by special majority of the parliament, that is, a two-third of majority of the members of each house present and voting, and a majority that is more than 50% of the total membership of each house. So this is the special majority. And another is, it can be amended by special majority of the parliament and with the ratification by half of the total states. And at the same time, some provisions of the constitution can be amended by a simple majority of the parliament, like ordinary legislative process. And these amendments do not come under Article 368. Next feature is federal system with unitary bias. So Indian constitution contains all the usual feature of a federation, like two government, division of powers, written constitution, supremacy of constitution, rigidity of constitution, independent judiciary, etc. And Indian constitution also contains large number of unitary or non-federal features, like strong center, single constitution, single citizenship, flexibility of constitution, etc. Moreover, you have to remember that federation term has nowhere been used in the constitution. Article 1 describes India as a union of states, not federation of states. Means Indian federation is not the result of an agreement by the states. And 2. No state has the right to secede from the federation. Therefore, our Indian constitution has been variously described as federation in form but unitary in spirit. Another feature is parliamentary form of government, because India has opted for the British parliamentary system of government rather than American presidential system of government. So what are the features of parliamentary form of government in India? First feature is presence of nominal and real executive. So who is the nominal and real executive? President is the nominal executive and Prime Minister is the real executive. Next feature of parliamentary government in India is majority party rule. Another is collective responsibility of the executive to the legislature. Next is membership of the ministers in the legislature and leadership of Prime Minister or CM, Chief Minister. And last is dissolution of the lower house, that is Lok Sabha. So these are some features of Indian parliamentary government. So we have opted for British parliamentary system, but Indian parliamentary system is bit different from the British pattern. So what are those differences? First is Indian parliament is not a sovereign body like British parliament. Means we don't have a sovereign parliament. And what is next? Indian state has an elected head, while the British state has hereditary head, means monarchy. Next is that Indian constitution is synthesis of parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. So parliamentary sovereignty is the feature of British Parliament and judicial supremacy is the feature of American Supreme Court. So as the Indian parliamentary system differs from the British system, as we have studied earlier, likewise the scope of judicial review power of the Supreme Court in India is narrower than that of what exists in USA. Why this is narrower than USA's? Because the American Constitution provides for due process of law against that of the procedure established by law contained in the Indian Constitution under Article 21. So the framers of the Constitution Indian Constitution have preferred a proper synthesis. Means our Constitution is the proper synthesis of both British principle of parliamentary sovereignty and American principle of judicial supremacy. Because Supreme Court can declare the parliamentary laws as unconstitutional through its power of judicial review, and the parliament can amend the major portion of the constitution through its constituent power. Next is integrated and independent judiciary. So Indian constitution establishes a judicial system that is integrated as well as independent. So the Supreme Court stands at the top in the judicial system, and below it there are high courts at the state level. Under a high court there is a hierarchy of subordinate courts, means Supreme Court, and then under it high courts, and then under high courts subordinate courts. So this single system of courts enforces both the central laws as well as the state laws. Unlike in USA, where the federal laws are enforced by the federal judiciary and the state laws are enforced by the state judiciary. So the Supreme Court is a federal court, the highest court of appeal, the guarantor of fundamental rights of the citizen and the guardian of the constitution. Therefore, the constitution has made various provisions to ensure its independence. And how it ensures its independence? It is security of the tenure of judges, fixed service conditions for the judges, all the expenses of Supreme Courts charged on the Consolidated Fund of India, means CFI, etc. Next is fundamental rights. This is very important feature of the Constitution, and It is an achievement of the Constitution of India. These fundamental rights are like a gift and boon for the Indians who had suffered by the foreign rule for years. So the main objective of the FR is to provide an opportunity to the citizen of India for their complete development. Also, it is mentioned under the part 3 of the Constitution. So what are the important FRs? Means fundamental rights to all the citizens. Right to equality. Article 14 to 18 covers right to equality. Right to freedom. Article 19 to Article 22. Right against exploitation. Article 23 to 24. Right to freedom of religion. Article 25 to 28. Cultural and educational rights. Article 29 and 30 covers it. Right to constitutional remedies. Article 32. However, the fundamental rights are not absolute and subject to reasonable restrictions. Also, they can be suspended during the operation of national emergency, except the right guaranteed by the Article 20 and 21. Next feature is Directive Principles of State Policy, means DPSP. So according to Dr. Ambedkar, the DPSP means Directive Principles of State Policy is a novel feature of the Constitution. The DPSP are meant to promote ideal of social and economic democracy, and the FRs promotes political democracy. DPSP seek to establish a welfare state in India. The framers of our constitution had perceived such a structure of constitution which is for the welfare of humanity. The constitution framers wanted that the state shall determine their own policies in such a manner that the living standard of people of the country are raised, children get free education, no one is deprived of justice, equal pay for equal work, economic security, decentralization of power, etc. So these welfare provisions are not made compulsory, but it is the duty of a welfare state to implement them, and it is left on the availability of resources with the state as well. Now there has been decision of the judiciary which provide the directive principle of state of the position of fundamental rights. Next feature of our constitution is fundamental duties. So these were not there in the original constitution but added during the operation of internal emergency, that is during 1975 and 77 by the 42nd constitutional amendment. By the 42nd constitutional amendment act of 1976 on the recommendation of Swarn Singh committee. The 86th constitutional amendment also added one more fundamental duty in it, and these fundamental duties are there in the part 4A of the constitution, means article 51A. Only this article consists these provisions. The Indian constitution adopts universal adult franchise as a basis of election to the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assembly. So this is the next feature of our constitution. So every citizen who is not less than 18 years of age has a right to vote without any discrimination of caste, race, religion, sex, literacy, wealth, and so on. Here you will have to remember this thing. The voting age was reduced to 18 years from 21 years in 1989 by 61st Amendment Act of 1988. So another important feature is provision of single citizenship. Though we have federal structure like center and state, but still the citizens get single citizenship. Every person is called citizen of India and they cannot claim double citizenship like in America. Despite the constitutional provision for a single citizenship and uniform rights for all the people. Next feature is independent body. So, like we have legislative, executive, and judicial organs of the government. Also, we have certain independent bodies in the constitution, like Election Commission, Comptroller and Auditor General (CAG), which audits the account, etc. UPSC, Union Public Service Commission, to conduct examinations, etc. State Public Service Commissions. So, the Constitution ensures the independence of these bodies through various provisions like security of tenure, fixed service conditions, etc. The Constitution of India contains elaborate emergency provisions to enable the President to meet any extraordinary situation effectively. So, this is our next important feature, emergency provision. This emergency provision is to safeguard the sovereignty, unity, integrity, and security of the country. So, what are the types? You can say there are three types of emergencies, like national emergency, on the ground of war or external aggression, or armed rebellion. Article 352 covers it. Another feature is, another emergency provision, state emergency, means president's rule on the ground of failure of the constitutional machinery in the state. Article 356 covered it. So, the constitutional machinery failure or failure of comply with the direction of the center. These two factors are responsible for state emergency or president's rule, which is covered under Article 365. And next is financial emergency on the ground of threat to the financial stability or credit of India, which is being covered under Article 360. During an emergency, the central government becomes all powerful and the states go into the total control of the center. Means here we can see the federal structure of the state into a unitary one. So next feature is three-tier government. So earlier in the constitution we had dual polity and contained provisions with regard to the organization and power of the state and center. But later on, with 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act 1992, a third tier of government, that is local government, was added. The 73rd Amendment Act of 1992 gave constitutional recognition to the panchayats, that is rural local government, by adding a new part 9th, and new schedule 11 to the constitution. And similarly, 74th Amendment Act of 1992 gave what? Recognition to the municipalities, that is urban local government, by adding another new part, that is 9th A, and a new schedule, that is schedule 12 to the constitution. So with this we have got two new schedules, that is schedule 11 and 12, and two parts, that is part 9 and part 9A. So the last feature in the list is secular state. So Constitution of India stands for a secular state. It does not uphold any particular religion as the official religion of the Indian state. So the term secular was added to the preamble by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. Basically, secular means the state has no religion. Religion will not be allowed to interfere in state matters, and state will not interfere in religious matters. So religion is a private affair in India, but Indian secularism is different from that of Western secularism. We talk about equal promotion of all religions, but in Western secularism it is more about neutrality. In India we don't talk about neutrality. We realize tolerance of all religions and respect for all religions in India. In India, we can be deeply religious but at the same time be secular. So this was all for today's lecture. In the next lecture, we'll come up with some more interesting topics of polity and history. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome to our channel iTeach. So today's lecture brings you closer to the Constitution of India, important articles of the Constitution of India, schedules and sources of Constitution of India. Today we will read about different parts of the Indian Constitution and articles covered under these parts. So the first part is the Union and its territory, and Article 1 to 4 covered under this. Second part is citizenship. Article 5 to 11 comes under citizenship. I mean, these articles define and give you the way of citizenship. Third part is fundamental rights, and Article 12 to 35 talks about fundamental rights. Part 4 is directive principles of state policy, that is DPSP. Article 36 to 51 deals with DPSP. Article 4A, A because it is added after the amendments of the Constitution. So, fundamental duties. Article 51A covers the fundamental duties. Article 52 to 151 talks about union government, and that is your part 5th. Part 6 of the Constitution deals with the state governments, and Article 152 to 237 covers different provision for the state government. Next part is Part 8. Part 8 deals with the union territories, and Article 239 to 242 covers this. Part 9 is panchayats. Part 9A is municipalities. So Article 243 to 243ZG covers panchayats and municipalities. Next part is Part 9B. Next part is 9th B, which is also very important because it deals with cooperative societies, and Article 243ZH to 243ZT comes under this with different provisions. Next part is Part 10, that deals with the scheduled and tribal areas, and Article 242 to 244A. Next part is Part 10, that deals with scheduled and tribal areas, and Article 244 to 244A comes under this part. Next part is 11, that deals with relations between union and states, and Article 245 to 263 deals it. Next part is 12, which covers finance, property, contracts and suits. Article 264 to 300A. Another one is Part 13, that deals with trade, commerce and intercourse within the territory of India, and Article 301 to 307 deals it with its different provisions. Next is Part 14. 14 deals with services under the union and the states, and Article 308 to 323 deals with it. Next part is 14A, and this part deals with tribunals, and Article 323A to 323B give different provisions for this tribunals. Next part is Part 15, and that is very important for elections, and Article 324 to 329A comes under this. Another one is Part 16, that deals with special provisions relating to certain classes, and Article 330 to 342 comes under this. Next part is Part 17, that is, it is for official language. 343 to 351 deals with the different languages of our country, and another one means Part 18. It is very important because it deals with the emergency provision, and Article 352 to 360, which deals with different kind of emergency provisions, emergency rules, in which Article 352 deals with national emergency, Article 356 deals president rule or constitutional breakdown.
and Article 360 deals with financial emergency. Next part is 19th and it deals with miscellaneous. Article 361 to 367 covers this. Part 20 deals with amendment of the constitution. This part is very important because any change you want to make, the parliament, they deals under this part and with the help of Article 368. Next part is part 21, that is temporary, transitional and special provisions comes under this part, and Article 369 to 392 covers this part. And the last part is part 22. It includes short title, commencement, authoritative text in Hindi and repeals. Article 393 to 395 comes under this part. So the total parts are 22. You have seen earlier that I directly jumped from part 8 to part 6 because part 7 was deleted by the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act 1956, and this part deal with part B states.
It's very important for you to remember these parts with its subject matter and also with articles covered under this subject matter, because it may come in your examination. So there are many tricks. With the help of those tricks you can remember these parts, but I have read it somewhere and I found it really very interesting to remember these parts, so I'm sharing these different forms, this trick with you so that you can easily remember these parts. So the first part is union and its territory. So U stands for union and its territory. So you can fly. So you can take U for union and its territory. Can, C from can stands for citizenship and fly for fundamental rights. So in this way you can take the first letter of the word for the part respectively. So you can fly directly from US, from for fundamental duties, and US, U for union government and S for state government. So first sentence is you can fly directly from US. Next is union territory and panchayat. So you can connect the above line with you can fly directly from US to UP. To meet, M stands for municipalities. To meet Shyam and Ram. So here cooperative is missing. So you can easily remember this. You can meet Shyam and Ram in cooperative societies. So you can fly directly from US to UP to meet Shyam and Ram in cooperative societies. Now here comes the next line. The part 12 covers finance and after that trade commerce. So you can say that fruits taste sweet to eat on special occasions. Means F stands for finance, taste T stands for trade, sweet S stands for services, 2 for tribunals, and eat E for election. And here few parts were missing in that trick, so I have added few words for my remembrance. So fruit tastes sweet to eat on special occasion. And next line and the last line, it will be eat Maggie as tasty snack. Means E stands for emergency, M stands for miscellaneous, as A stands for amendment, tasty T stands for temporary, transitional, etc. and last snacks stands for short title, etc. So the sentence is you can fly directly from US to UP to meet Shyam and Ram in cooperative. Next is fruit taste sweet to eat on a special occasion. Eat Maggie as tasty snack. And that's it. Hello friends, welcome to our channel iTeach. So in today's lecture, we'll take a look on important articles of the Indian Constitution. So first article is, Article 1 is name and territory of the Union. Article 3, Article 3rd, formation of new states and alteration of areas, boundaries or names of existing states. Next article is 13, laws inconsistent with or in derogation of the fundamental rights. Article 14, equality before law. Article 16, equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. Article 17, abolition of untouchability. Article 19, protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, etc. Article 21, protection of the life and personal liberty. Article 21A, right to elementary education. Article 25, freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. Article 30, right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. 31C, saving of laws giving effect to certain DPSP. Article 32, remedies for enforcement of fundamental rights including writs. Article 38, state to secure the social order for promotion of welfare of the people. Article 40, organization of village panchayats. Article 44, uniform civil code for the citizens. Article 45, provisions of early childhood care and education to children below the age of 6 years. Article 46, promotion of educational and economic interest of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other weaker sections. Article 50, separation of judiciary from the executive. Article 51, promotion of international peace and security. Article 51A, fundamental duties. Article 72, power of president to grant pardon, etc. and to suspend, remit or commute sentences in certain cases. Article 74, council of ministers to aid and advise the president. Article 78, duties of prime minister as respect the furnishing of information to the president, etc. Article 110, definition of money bills. Article 112, annual financial statement, that is budget. Article 123, power of president to promulgate ordinances during recess or of parliament. Article 143, power of president to consult the Supreme Court. Article 155, appointment of governor. Article 161, power of governor to grant pardons, etc. and to suspend, remit or commute sentences in certain cases. Article 163, council of ministers to aid and advise the governor. Article 167, duties of chief minister with regard to the furnishing of information to governor, etc. Next article is Article 169, abolition or creation of legislative council in states. Article 200, assent to bills by governor including reservation for president. Article 213, power of governor to promulgate ordinances during recess of the state legislature. Article 226, power of high courts to issue writs. Article 239A, special provisions with respect to Delhi. Article 249, power of parliament to legislate with respect to matters in the state list in the national interest. Article 262, adjudication of disputes relating to waters of interstate rivers or river valleys. Article 263, provisions with respect to an interstate council. Article 265, taxes not to be imposed save by authority of law. Article 275 deals with grants for the union to certain states. Next, 280, Finance Commission. 300, suits and proceedings. Article 300A, persons not to be deprived of property save by authority of law. Article 311, dismissal, removal or reduction in rank of persons employed in civil capacities under the union or a state. Article 312, all India services. Article 315, public service commissions for the union and for the states. Article 320, functions of public service commissions. Article 324, superintendence, direction and control of elections to be vested in an election commission. Article 330, reservation of seats for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in the House of the People. Article 335, claims of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes to services and posts. Article 352, proclamation of emergency, that is national emergency. Article 356, provisions in case of failure of constitutional machinery in states precedents rule. 360, provisions as to financial emergency. These two articles, that is Article 352 and 356, I mean these three articles, and 360, I have told you earlier, these all are related to emergency. Article 365, effect of failure to comply with or to give effect to directions given by the Union President's rule. Means in this case, I mean under Article 365, President's rule can be implied. Article 368, it's very important because this article is related to power of Parliament to amend the Constitution and procedure. Article 37, temporary provisions with respect to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So these are few important articles which you will have to remember, because there are many articles in the Constitution and it's not possible for you to remember every article. So here are few important articles that is very important for your examination, and you will have to remember these, and I'll tell you some tricks to remember these articles, and you will just have to connect these things together. Few articles are also interconnected, so in this way you will remember these articles easily. Firstly, it's very important for you to remember the broad category of the articles. I mean, if we talk about union and territory, Article 1 to 4 covers this. Article 5 to 11 deals with citizenship. Article 12 to 35 deals with fundamental rights. So in this way, you will have to remember these broad categorization of articles till Article 51A, means Article 1 to 50 and 51A, because it's very important for your examination point of view. If we talk about Article 72, so Article 72 is what? Power of President to grant pardons, etc. And its corresponding article for a state is Article 161. So the difference between 72 and 61 is 89. So if you see here, the difference between these two numbers are 89 for articles of center and articles of state. If we talk about Article 74, it is for Council of Ministers to aid and advice of President. And if we talk about the corresponding article for state, it is Article 163. So here as well the difference is 89. So Article 72 to Article 110, you will see the difference is 89 for the center and state articles for the corresponding articles. Likewise, if we talk about Article 112, it deals with annual financial statement for union, and its corresponding article for state is Article 202, which also deals with annual financial statement for state. So here the difference is for 90. So you can see between the center, means union, and state articles, there is a difference of 89 and 90 numbers. So it's very easy to remember these articles, corresponding articles for union and state. You will have to remember for union, and then you will add 89 or 90 for these. So you can get a broad idea about the corresponding article for state and union. Article 352 to 360 deals with emergency provisions. So if you see, Article 352 deals with proclamation of emergency, and if you add 4 in 352, it becomes 356, that deals with failure of constitutional machinery. And if you add 4, the same number. In Article 356, it becomes 360 and it deals with financial emergency. So there is only a difference of 4 number between these three emergencies. If we talk about Article 365, if you reverse the last two digits 6 and 5, it becomes 356, and these two articles are just opposite to each other. Article 356 deals with provisions in case of failure of constitutional machinery, and 365 it deals with effect of failure to comply with or give effect to directions given by the union. Hello everyone, welcome to our channel iTeach. So earlier we have discussed important articles of Indian Constitution and different parts of the Constitution, and today we will discuss the schedule of Indian Constitution. So there are 12 schedules in the Constitution of India. One of the first mentions of schedules was made in Government of India Act 1935, where it included 10 schedules. But when it was adopted, the Constitution, when it was adopted in 1949, it consisted of only 8 schedules. Now, after so many amendments in Indian Constitution, there are a total number of 12 schedules. So, first schedule of Indian Constitution deals with name of the state and union territory. Territorial jurisdiction of state is also included there. Second schedule of Indian Constitution has the provisions in relation with allowances, privileges, emoluments of President of India, governors of Indian state, the Speaker of Lok Sabha and Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha, Chairman of Rajya Sabha and Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Speaker and Deputy Speaker of Legislative Assemblies of Indian states, Chairman and Deputy Chairman of Legislative Councils of the Indian state, Supreme Court judges, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, that is CAG. Article 59, 65, 75, 97, 125, 148, 158, 164, 186 and 221 deals with these provisions. Third schedule contains the form of oath and affirmation for Union Ministers of India, Parliament election candidates, Member of Parliaments or MPs, Supreme Court judges, Comptroller and Auditor General, State Ministers, State Legislature elections candidates, State Legislature members and High Court judges. So, third schedule deals with the oath and affirmation, and related articles are 75, 84, 99, 124 and 146, 173, 188 and 219. Fourth schedule of the Constitution contains the provision in relation to the allocation of seats for states and union territories in the Rajya Sabha, and Article 4 and 80. These two articles are related to these provisions. Schedule 5th contains provisions in relation to the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes, and Article 244 related to this provision. After finishing these schedules, I will tell you how you can remember these schedules and related articles. So next schedule is 6th schedule. It contains provision in relation to the administration of tribal areas in the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, and Article 244 and 275 deals with these provisions. So you can remember these areas with AMTM: Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. 7th schedule deals with the 3 legislative lists, that is union, state and concurrent list. And Article 246 deals with this provision. Eighth schedule deals with the 22 official languages recognized by the Indian Constitution. Originally, there were 14 languages at the time of framing of the Constitution, but now at present there are 22 official languages, and these languages are Assamese, Bengali, Bodo, Dogri, you can also call it Dongri, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkani, Maithili, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, Oriya, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Santhali, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, and Urdu. Most of the languages are related to their state's name, so you can remember it easily, like Oriya, Nepali, Marathi, or Gujarati, or Bengali, Assamese, etc. If we talk about ninth schedule, it was added after the First Amendment Act of 1951 to protect the laws included in it from judicial scrutiny on the ground of violation of fundamental right. So it was added after the First Amendment Act of 1951. But in 2007, the Supreme Court ruled that the laws included in this schedule after April 24th, 1973 are now open to judicial review. So Schedule 9 deals with the state acts and regulation of that deals with land reforms and abolition of the zamindari system. It also deals with the acts and regulations of the parliament dealing with other matters. Article 31B deals with these provisions. Next is 10th schedule. This schedule is also known as Anti-Defection Law, which was added by the 52nd Amendment Act of 1985. So this schedule contains provisions relating to disqualification of members of parliament and state legislatures on the ground of defection. Articles 102 and 191, these two articles deal with these provisions. Article 102 deals with the center and Article 191 deals with state MLAs. 11th schedule was added after the 73rd Amendment Act of 1992. This schedule contains the provisions that specify the powers, authority and responsibilities of panchayats. It has 29 matters. Article 243G deals with these provisions. So last schedule is Schedule 12th, which was added after the 74th Amendment Act of 1992, and this part deals with the provisions that specify the powers, authority and responsibilities of municipalities, and it has 18 matters. If you remember, I have discussed it earlier when I was dealing with parts of the constitution. Part 9A was added for this schedule, 12th schedule, and part 9 was added for the panchayats. So now I will tell you the tricks which many students use to remember these schedules. So the sentence is tears of old PM, and each letter stands for the schedule 1 to 12. Like if we talk about tiers, T of tiers, so T is territory, union and state territory. So schedule 1 is T. Say schedule 2 is related to emoluments, etc. So tiers E. E stands for emoluments. A stands for affirmations and oath. Schedule 3 deals with affirmation and oath. We have studied before. And R stands for Rajya Sabha. So part 4 deals with Rajya Sabha. And S, tiers. S stands for scheduled area. That is part schedule 5 of the constitution that deals with the scheduled area. And O stands for other scheduled areas. And F stands for federal provisions. Federal provisions means three lists, means union, state and concurrent list. So that this is part schedule 7. And old PM. O stands for official languages, L stands for land reforms, and D stands for defection. And last two schedules are P and M. P stands for Panchayat, that is schedule 11, and M stands for municipalities, that is schedule 12. So these tricks are being used by many students. You can also use it, and it's very simple. So tiers of old PM is 12 schedules of the Indian Constitution. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome to our channel iTeach. So today we will discuss the sources of Indian Constitution. So this topic is important for your IAS prelims, mains and interview as well. Knowing the sources of Indian Constitution will help aspirants write for their mains GS. If we talk about the sources of Indian Constitution, as you all know, we have taken different sources in our constitution, like the Government of India Act of 1935 was the major part of our sources of Indian Constitution. About 60% of the provisions are from the Act of 1935. It is also said that our constitution is borrowed, but actually it is a synthesis of rigid and flexible constitution, and as per the need of our country, it has been taken from different sources. So we will be discussing these sources one by one. If we talk about Government of India Act 1935, important provisions are Federal Scheme, Office of Governor, Judiciary, Public Service Commission, Emergency Provisions and Administrative Tribunals. If I tell you the trick of remembering these features of Act of 1935, so the trick is JEF governs public. So J stands for Judiciary, E stands for Emergency Provisions and Administrative Tribunal, and F stands for Federal Scheme. Here governs means Office of Governor, and Public Service Commission. So this simple sentence, JEF governs public, will lead you to remember the features of Government of India Act of 1935, that is JEF governs public. If I talk about the borrowed feature from British Constitution, these features are parliamentary government, rule of law, legislative procedures, single citizenship, cabinet system, prerogative writs, parliamentary privileges and bicameralism. In Britain, writs are known as prerogative writs. What are the borrowed features from the British Constitution? So here's the trick. Sign by is a complex law. So sign is what? Sign cause. So sign by is a complex law. Sign stands for single citizenship, by stands for bicameralism, and complex is for CAG of India, and law means rule of law. Rule of law means law making procedure and equality before law. So with this simple sentence, sign by is a complex law, you can easily remember the borrowed feature from the Constitution of Britain. Next is US Constitution. So borrowed feature from this constitution is fundamental rights, independence of judiciary, judicial review, impeachment of the president, removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges, and post of vice president. So you can easily remember these features with this sentence, that is, Pres needs fundamental right for removal of present vice president and judge in USA. So here Pres means borrowed features of President of India from the Constitution of USA are Executive Head, Supreme Commander. Fundamental rights FR are borrowed from the Constitution of US. Here removal stands for removal of judges. Present stands for preamble. Vice President and judiciary borrowed from the US Constitution. So with this sentence, President needs fundamental right for removal of present Vice President and judges in USA. You can easily remember the borrowed features from US Constitution. So next is Irish Constitution. The borrowed features are directive principles of state policy, nomination of members of Rajya Sabha, and method of election of president. So how will you remember the features? I'll tell you a very simple trick. These tricks are used by many students, and actually I have read it somewhere and I found it very easy to remember these borrowed features. LSDP is number one. So LA stands for election method of president. DP stands for DPSP is Ireland, and number one, number NO stands for nomination of members in Rajya Sabha by president. So LSDP is number one are the borrowed features from the Ireland. Some other features which we have borrowed from the Canadian Constitution are federation with a strong center, vesting the residuary power in the center, appointment of the state governors by the center, and advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. It's not necessary that you remember these features with these tricks only. You can make it if you find any simple sentence or trick. But what I find interesting and simple, I'm sharing that with you. Can I know FED's address? CAN stands for Canada. FED stands for federal structure. Address. In address, AD stands for advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court, and RES stands for residuary power to center. If we talk about the borrowed features from the Australian constitutions, these features are concurrent list, freedom of trade, commerce and intercourse, and joint sitting of the two houses of parliament. So the trick is joint trademark is C2. Joint stands for joint sitting of parliament, trademark freedom of trade, and C2. One C stands for concurrent list and another C stands for commerce, freedom of commerce. If we talk about Weimar's Constitution of Germany, the feature is suspension of fundamental rights during emergency. Germany, you can remember Germany with the name of Hitler. So at that time, many times emergency was proclaimed. So you can easily remember that suspension of fundamental rights during emergency. This feature is borrowed from the Constitution of Germany because, as you all know, during emergency, fundamental rights are suspended. Next is Soviet Constitution, USSR, and now it's Russia. So fundamental duties and the ideal of justice, that is social, economic and political in the preamble. These features are borrowed from the Constitution of USSR. You can remember the features borrowed from USSR with the trick just FD. Just stand for justice, I mean idea of justice, and FD, fundamental duties. Justice, that is social, economic and political. Another borrowed features from the Constitution of France, that is French Constitution, are republic and ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity in the preamble. After the French Revolution, the ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity were adopted. So you can remember these features easily.
Moving further, the borrowed features from the South African Constitution are procedure for amendment of the Constitution and election to members of Rajya Sabha. If I say Amanda elects Rajya Sabha members, so it means these are the borrowed features from the Constitution of South Africa. That is, Amanda stands for amendment procedures of the constitutions. Elects stands for election of members of Rajya Sabha. So Amanda elects Rajya Sabha members. The important thing here you need to remember is here the election of members are mentioned. Member of Rajya Sabha elections are mentioned, and that is borrowed from the South African Constitution. And if we talk about nomination of Rajya Sabha members, this feature is borrowed from the Irish Constitution. Next is Japanese Constitution and the procedure established by law. This feature is borrowed from the Japanese Constitution. So if we talk about procedure established by law, this feature is borrowed from the Constitution of Japan, and rule of law. This feature is borrowed from UK. So that is all about today's lecture. Thank you.
हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू आवर चैनल आई टीच। सो आज का टॉपिक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग है जो कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का एसेंस है और वो है प्रीएम्बल ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। सो आज के टॉपिक में वी विल डिस्कस इंट्रोडक्शन, अ शॉर्ट इंट्रो, उसके बाद टेक्स्ट ऑफ द प्रीएम्बल एंड देन इंग्रेडिएंट्स ऑफ द प्रीएम्बल, और इसके बाद हम इसके कुछ कीवर्ड्स पढ़ेंगे, साथ ही इसके सिग्निफिकेंस यानी कि महत्व को देखेंगे, और ये भी डिस्कस करेंगे कि प्रीएम्बल हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का पार्ट है या नहीं। और इसके बाद लास्ट टॉपिक हमारा होगा अमेंडेबिलिटी ऑफ द प्रीएम्बल। इसका मतलब है कि क्या हम प्रीएम्बल में चेंजेस अमेंडमेंट के थ्रू कर सकते हैं या नहीं। अगर हम प्रीएम्बल की बात करें तो प्रीएम्बल ये जो टर्म है ये हमें क्या बताता है, दिस इज एन इंट्रोडक्शन और प्रीफेस टू द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, यानी कि एक इंट्रोडक्शन है, प्रीफेस है। एक एमिनेंट ज्यूरिस्ट N.A. पालकीवाला, उन्होंने इसको क्या बताया है कि प्रीएम्बल एज द आइडेंटिटी कार्ड ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। तो अमेरिकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पहला ऐसा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन था जिसने प्रीएम्बल से अपना कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन स्टार्ट किया, और इसके बाद इसे कई कंट्रीज इंक्लूडिंग इंडिया इन्होंने फॉलो किया। इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में प्रीएम्बल हमारे ऑब्जेक्टिव रिजोल्यूशन पे बेस्ड है, जिसे पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने ड्राफ्ट किया था और इसे कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में अडॉप्ट किया गया। और प्रीएम्बल को 42nd कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 1976 के तहत अमेंड किया गया था, यानी कि इसमें संशोधन किया गया, और इसमें 3 नए वर्ड ऐड किए गए। वो वर्ड्स थे सोशलिस्ट, सेक्युलर एंड इंटेग्रिटी। इफ वी टॉक अबाउट द टेक्स्ट ऑफ द प्रीएम्बल, यानी हमारे प्रीएम्बल का टेक्स्ट क्या है, कैसे स्टार्ट होता है, तो हमारा प्रीएम्बल है, वी द पीपल ऑफ इंडिया हैविंग solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution. और अगर हम इसे हिंदी टेक्स्ट में देखें, यानी कि हमारी प्रस्तावना क्या है, तो ये है, हम भारत के लोग भारत को एक संपूर्ण प्रभुत्व संपन्न, समाजवादी, पंथ निरपेक्ष लोकतंत्रात्मक गणराज्य बनाने के लिए तथा उसके समस्त नागरिकों को सामाजिक, आर्थिक और राजनैतिक न्याय, विचार अभिव्यक्ति, विश्वास, धर्म और उपासना की स्वतंत्रता, प्रतिष्ठा और अवसर की समानता, प्रतिष्ठा और अवसर की समता प्राप्त करने के लिए तथा उन सब में व्यक्ति की गरिमा और राष्ट्र की एकता और अखंडता सुनिश्चित करने वाली बंधुता को बढ़ाने के लिए दृढ़ संकल्प होकर अपनी इस संविधान सभा में आज तारीख 26 नवंबर 1949 को एतद द्वारा इस संविधान को अंगीकृत, अधिनियमित और आत्मसमर्पित करते हैं। If we talk about ingredients of the preamble, यानी कि preamble के तत्व क्या हैं, तो basically इसमें sources of authority of the constitution, nature of Indian state और objective of the constitution क्या है, और साथ ही date of adoption of the constitution। तो ये चार चीजें मिलके इसके ingredients को बनाती हैं। अगर हम sources of authority की बात करें तो preamble states that the constitution derives its authority from the people of India, यानी कि भारत के लोगों द्वारा ये अपनी अथॉरिटी डिराइव करता है। इसका मतलब ये है कि मेन पावर या अथॉरिटी किसके हाथ में है? लोगों के हाथ में है, भारत के लोगों के हाथ। अगर हम नेचर ऑफ इंडियन स्टेट इसकी बात करें तो इट डिक्लेयर्स इंडिया टू बी ऑफ अ सॉवरेन, सोशलिस्ट, सेक्युलर, डेमोक्रेटिक एंड रिपब्लिकन पॉलिटी। मतलब इसका ये है कि इंडिया का नेचर एक सॉवरेन, सोशलिस्ट, सेक्युलर, डेमोक्रेटिक और रिपब्लिकन स्टेट की तरह है। वी विल डिस्कस इट इन डिटेल लेटर। एंड नेक्स्ट इज ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, यानी उद्देश्य हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का। इट स्पेसिफाइज जस्टिस, लिबर्टी, इक्वालिटी एंड फ्रेटर्निटी एज द ऑब्जेक्टिव, यानी कि न्याय, स्वतंत्रता, समानता, समता आदि हमारे बेसिक उद्देश्य हैं। और इसका लास्ट कंपोनेंट है डेट ऑफ एडॉप्शन, और वो क्या है? नवंबर 26, 1949। तो ये चार बेसिक इंग्रेडिएंट्स ऑफ द प्रीएम्बल हैं। इफ वी टॉक अबाउट कीवर्ड्स ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, तो सॉवरेन, सोशलिस्ट, सेक्युलर, डेमोक्रेटिक एटसेट्रा ये हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के कीवर्ड्स हैं, जिसे हम एक एक करके अब एक्सप्लेन करेंगे। सोवरेन यानी संप्रभु, यदि हम इसकी बात करें ये क्या है, तो इसका मतलब होता है इस वर्ड सोवरेन, ये क्या इंप्लाई करता है? इट इंप्लाइज दैट इंडिया इज नीदर अ डिपेंडेंसी नॉर अ डोमिनियन ऑफ एनी अदर नेशन, यानी कि ये किसी भी दूसरे नेशन पर डिपेंडेंट नहीं है। इसका मतलब है कि ये एक इंडिपेंडेंट स्टेट है और कोई भी अथॉरिटी इसके ऊपर नहीं है। और ये क्या है? फ्री टू कंडक्ट इट्स ओन अफेयर्स बोथ इंटरनल एंड एक्सटर्नल। हालांकि इंडिया ने 1949 में कॉमनवेल्थ मेंबरशिप ली थी और लेकिन इसे ये नहीं समझना चाहिए कि इंडिया ने अपनी संप्रभुता इसके लिए खो दी, क्योंकि ये एक्स्ट्रा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अफेयर्स हैं और इट डज नॉट अफेक्ट इंडिया सॉवरेनिटी इन एनी मैनर। फर्दर इंडिया की यूएनओ यानी यूनाइटेड नेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मेंबरशिप जो है वो भी सॉवरेनिटी को अफेक्ट नहीं करती है, क्योंकि इंडिया एक सॉवरेन स्टेट है। ये किसी भी फॉरेन टेरिटरी को एक्वायर कर सकता है और उसको निकाल सकता है। नेक्स्ट कीवर्ड इज सोशलिस्ट, यानी कि अगर हम सोशलिस्ट की बात करें तो हालांकि ये 42nd अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 1976 के थ्रू ऐड किया गया, लेकिन इसके पहले भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में सोशलिस्ट कंटेंट डीपीएसपी यानी डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी के फॉर्म में था, कि जो तत्व हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में इम्प्लिसिट था उसे 42nd अमेंडमेंट के बाद ऐड करके वो वर्ड यानी कि सोशलिस्ट उसे एक्सप्लिसिट बना दिया गया। लेकिन अगर हम इंडियन सोशलिज्म की बात करें तो इंडियन सोशलिज्म इज बिट डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अमेरिकन सोशलिज्म। हाउ? इट इज डेमोक्रेटिक सोशलिज्म, ये एक डेमोक्रेटिक सोशलिज्म है और ये कम्युनिस्टिक सोशलिज्म से डिफरेंट है। कम्युनिस्टिक सोशलिज्म क्या होता है? इट इन्वॉल्व्स द नेशनलाइजेशन ऑफ ऑल मीन्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन and the abolition of private property. एंड इफ वी टॉक अबाउट डेमोक्रेटिक सोशलिज्म क्या है? ये मिक्स्ड इकोनॉमी में बिलीव करता है, यानी कि पब्लिक और प्राइवेट सेक्टर दोनों का कोएग्जिस्टेंस साइड बाय साइड. सो बेसिकली इंडियन सोशलिज्म इज अ ब्लेंड ऑफ मार्क्सिज्म एंड गांधीज्म सोशलिज्म, लेकिन इसका झुकाव ज्यादा किधर है? गांधीयन सोशलिज्म की तरफ है. जैसे कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी कहा है कि डेमोक्रेटिक सोशलिज्म एम्स टू एंड पॉवर्टी, इग्नोरेंस, डिजीज एंड इनइक्वालिटी ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी. इन सबको क्या करना है? खत्म करना है. लेकिन इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी 1991 एलपीजी यानी कि लिबरलाइजेशन, प्राइवेटाइजेशन और ग्लोबलाइजेशन के बाद हमारा सोशलिस्ट कैरेक्टर जो है थोड़ा सा डाइल्यूट हुआ है, लेकिन अभी भी इसका एम वही है. नेक्स्ट इज सेक्युलर. सो सेक्युलर भी हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में 42nd अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 1976 में ऐड किया गया. हालांकि इसके पहले 1974 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा था कि यद्यपि हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में सेक्युलर स्टेट ऐड नहीं किया गया है, लेकिन फिर भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हमारा सेक्युलर कंटेंट की तरफ झुका हुआ है, क्योंकि आर्टिकल 25 टू 28 हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में ऐड किया गया है. और ये तीनों आर्टिकल्स क्या बताते हैं? फ्रीडम ऑफ रिलीजन. हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सेक्युलरिज्म के पॉजिटिव कॉन्सेप्ट को अपनाता है. इसका मतलब ये है कि ऑल रिलीजन्स इन आवर कंट्री, इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ देयर स्ट्रेंथ, have the same status and support from the state. But it also means that the state does not support any religion. So basically Indian secularism is different from the secularism from other countries. Like western concept क्या कहता है secularism के concept के बारे में? Secularism concept ये है, western concept, that state doesn't support any religion, but in Indian context equal promotion of all religion. That is basically the essence of secularism. Next is democratic. So democratic जो हमारा की वर्ड है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का, वो डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ पॉपुलर सॉवरेनिटी पे बेस्ड है. इसका मतलब ये है कि पोजीशन ऑफ सुप्रीम पावर बाय द पीपल. डेमोक्रेसी अगर हम देखें तो दो तरह की हो सकती है, डायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी एंड इनडायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी. डायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी क्या होती है? डायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी का मतलब होता है कि द पीपल एक्सरसाइज देयर सुप्रीम पावर डायरेक्टली, एज इज द केस इन स्विट्जरलैंड, यानी कि जैसा कि स्विट्जरलैंड में है. और ये कई तरह के इसमें डिवाइसेस भी होते हैं. मतलब ये डिवाइसेस क्या हैं? रेफरेंडम, इनिशिएटिव, रिकॉल एंड प्लेबिसिट. तो ये चार डिवाइसेस क्या हैं? रेफरेंडम, इनिशिएटिव, रिकॉल एंड प्लेबिसिट. So what is referendum? So referendum is procedure in which a proposed legislation is referred to the electorate for acceptance through direct voting. And what is initiative? Initiative क्या है? ये एक method है by means of which the people can propose a bill to the legislature for enactment. And what is recall? Recall है way for voters to remove a representative or an officer before the expiry of his या her term when he fails to discharge his duties properly. And what is plebiscite? Plebiscite means method of obtaining the opinion of people on any issue of public importance. So basically ये कब यूज किया जाता है? लास्ट plebiscite. ये जनरली टेरिटोरियल डिस्प्यूट्स को सॉल्व करने के लिए इस्तेमाल किया जाता है. अब अगर हम इनडायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी की बात करें, ये क्या है? इसमें रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स इलेक्टेड बाय द पीपल एक्सरसाइज द सुप्रीम पावर, यानी कि हमारे रिप्रेजेंटेटिव वो ड्यूटीज को फुलफिल करते हैं, उसे पूरा करते हैं, और इस तरह से गवर्नमेंट क्या करती है? लॉज बनाती है. इस तरह की डेमोक्रेसी को हम क्या कह सकते हैं? रिप्रेजेंटेटिव डेमोक्रेसी, क्योंकि ये हमें इलेक्टेड पीपल रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं, पीपल्स ऑफ इंडिया को. और ये भी दो तरह की हो सकती है, पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी एंड प्रेसिडेंशियल इनडायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी. अगर इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की बात करें तो ये हमें क्या प्रोवाइड करता है, रिप्रेजेंटेटिव पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी, जिसका मतलब है एग्जीक्यूटिव इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू द लेजिस्लेचर फॉर ऑल इट्स पॉलिसीज एंड एक्शंस। यानी कि यूनिवर्सल एडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज, पीरियोडिक इलेक्शन, रूल ऑफ लॉ, इंडिपेंडेंस जुडिशरी एंड एब्सेंस ऑफ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन ऑन सर्टेन ग्राउंड्स, ये सब हमारे डेमोक्रेटिक कैरेक्टर की अभिव्यक्ति हैं, इनको मैनिफेस्ट करते हैं। मैनिफेस्टेशन ऑफ इंडियन डेमोक्रेसी। टर्म डेमोक्रेटिक जो है ये प्रीएम्बल में एक ब्रॉडर सेंस में लिया गया है, जिसका मतलब सिर्फ पॉलिटिकल डेमोक्रेसी ही नहीं है बल्कि इसके साथ साथ सोशल और इकोनॉमिक डेमोक्रेसी भी है। और प्रीएम्बल में इसे लिखा भी गया है कि डेमोक्रेसी ऑफ पॉलिटिकल, सोशल एंड इकोनॉमिकल। जैसे कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में अडॉप्शन के वक्त डॉक्टर अंबेडकर ने भी स्ट्रेस दिया था। उनका कहना था कि पॉलिटिकल डेमोक्रेसी तब तक नहीं टिक सकती जब तक कि सोशल डेमोक्रेसी हमारे लास्ट स्ट्राटा में भी ना हो। सो सोशल डेमोक्रेसी क्या है? सोशल डेमोक्रेसी बेसिकली वे ऑफ लाइफ है जो कि रिकॉग्नाइज करे लिबर्टी, इक्वालिटी और फ्रेटर्निटी को। इसका मतलब ये है कि लिबर्टी, इक्वालिटी और फ्रेटर्निटी को हमें एक सेपरेट आइटम्स की तरह ट्रीट नहीं करना है बल्कि इन्हें एक साथ एक सेंस बनाते हुए देखना है, जो कि हमारे डेमोक्रेसी का बेस फॉर्म करती हैं। So these topics are important and rest we will cover in our next lecture. So that's all for today. Thank you. हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू आवर चैनल आई टीच। तो हमने अभी तक प्रीएम्बल के कुछ टॉपिक्स को डिस्कस किया है। तो प्रीएम्बल के पहले लेक्चर में हमने प्रीएम्बल के टेक्स्ट, उसके इंग्रेडिएंट्स और कुछ कीवर्ड्स को डिस्कस किया है। तो आज हम इन्हीं कीवर्ड्स को और आगे बढ़ाएंगे और आज हमारा नेक्स्ट जो है कीवर्ड वो है रिपब्लिक। सो रिपब्लिक का क्या मतलब होता है? किसी भी डेमोक्रेटिक पॉलिटी को हम दो कैटेगरी में बांट सकते हैं। पहला है मोनार्की और दूसरा होता है रिपब्लिक। सो मोनार्की क्या होता है? तो मोनार्की में यूजुअली किंग और क्वीन हेड होते हैं। मींस हेड ऑफ द स्टेट क्या होते हैं? किंग और क्वीन। और वो क्या करते हैं? हेरिडिटरी पोजीशन एंजॉय करते हैं। मींस उनको वंशानुगत पोजीशन मिलती है जो उनके फादर, ग्रैंडफादर, ग्रेट ग्रैंडफादर से मिलती है और उनको उनका ये ऑफिस उत्तराधिकार यानी सक्सेशन के थ्रू मिलता है। मींस ये हो गई मोनार्की जिसमें कि हेड ऑफ द स्टेट किंग और क्वीन हुआ और ये उसके हेरिडिटरी पोजीशन होते हैं और को ये सक्सेशन के थ्रू मिलता है, जैसे कि ब्रिटेन में है। अब हम बात करते हैं रिपब्लिक की। तो रिपब्लिक में क्या होता है? रिपब्लिक स्टेट में हेड ऑफ स्टेट हमेशा इलेक्टेड होता है, वो भी डायरेक्टली या इनडायरेक्टली, और उसका एक फिक्स्ड पीरियड होता है जैसे कि यूएसए में। सो इसलिए द टर्म रिपब्लिक जो है वो क्या है? हमारे प्रीएम्बल में इंडिकेट करता है दैट इंडिया हैज एन इलेक्टेड हेड कॉल्ड द प्रेसिडेंट, यानी कि हमारा प्रेसिडेंट इलेक्टेड हेड है और हमने इंडिया में रिपब्लिक कैरेक्टर को फॉलो किया है। अगर हम इंडियन कंटेक्स्ट में देखें तो इंडियन प्रीएम्बल में, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के प्रीएम्बल में हमने रिपब्लिक टर्म यूज किया है जो कि ये इंडिकेट करता है कि हमारा हेड इलेक्टेड है और हमारा इलेक्टेड हेड कौन है? प्रेसिडेंट। सो वो इनडायरेक्ट इलेक्ट होता है और एक फिक्स्ड पीरियड के लिए, यानी कि 5 साल का फिक्स्ड पीरियड है हमारे प्रेसिडेंट का जिसके लिए वो इलेक्ट किया जाता है। रिपब्लिक का मतलब दो और चीजों से जुड़ा हुआ है। पहली चीज ये है कि रिपब्लिक में पॉलिटिकल सॉवरेनिटी होती है, यानी कि राजनीतिक संप्रभुता, और वो किस में होती है? लोगों में। सो पॉलिटिकल सॉवरेनिटी इन द पीपल एंड नॉट इन अ सिंगल इंडिविजुअल, जैसे कि मोनार्की में होता है किंग्स के पास। और दूसरी चीज इसमें क्या है? एब्सेंस ऑफ एनी प्रिविलेज्ड क्लास। इसलिए सभी पब्लिक ऑफिसेस सबके लिए, हर सिटीजन के लिए बिना किसी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के खुले हुए हैं। इसका मतलब हो गया कि रिपब्लिक बेसिकली 4 कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स होते हैं। पहला, रिपब्लिक में हेड हमेशा इलेक्टेड होता है डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली। दूसरा, फिक्स्ड पीरियड होता है। तीसरा, पॉलिटिकल सॉवरेनिटी होती है। और चौथा, इट इज ओपन टू एवरी सिटीजन विदाउट एनी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन। नेक्स्ट है जस्टिस, यानी कि न्याय। प्रिएम्बल में जस्टिस का मतलब सोशल, इकोनॉमिक और पॉलिटिकल जस्टिस से है, यानी कि सामाजिक, आर्थिक और राजनीतिक न्याय। और इन जस्टिस को, इस न्याय को किसके थ्रू शामिल किया गया है? फंडामेंटल राइट्स और डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट के डिफरेंट एंड वेरियस प्रोविजंस के थ्रू इसे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में शामिल किया गया है। सोशल जस्टिस यानी कि सामाजिक न्याय, ये क्या बताता है? ये बताता है कि इक्वल ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ ऑल सिटीजन्स विदाउट एनी सोशल डिस्टिंक्शंस, यानी कि सबके लिए समान व्यवहार बिना किसी डिस्टिंक्शंस के। और वो किसके बेसिस पे डिस्टिंक्शन? जैसे कि कास्ट, कलर, रेस, रिलीजन, सेक्स या इसके अलावा कोई भी डिस्टिंक्शंस। इसका मतलब ये भी होता है कि सोशल जस्टिस का मतलब ये हुआ कि एब्सेंस ऑफ प्रिविलेजेस बीइंग एक्सटेंडेड टू एनी पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन ऑफ सोसाइटी। किसी भी पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन को सोसाइटी के कोई भी प्रिविलेज नहीं मिलता है, सबको एक समान ट्रीट किया जाता है। और इसमें और क्या हो सकता है? इम्प्रूवमेंट ऑफ कंडीशंस ऑफ बैकवर्ड क्लासेस लाइक SCs, STs एंड OBCs एंड ऑल्सो विमेन। जस्टिस में दूसरा फैक्टर है इकोनॉमिक जस्टिस का, यानी कि आर्थिक न्याय। ये क्या बताता है? इसका मतलब है कि आर्थिक तत्वों के आधार पर भेदभावपूर्ण व्यवहार न करना, भेदभाव नहीं करना। इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि वेल्थ, इनकम एंड प्रॉपर्टी, इन इनइक्वालिटीज के बेसिस पे किसी के साथ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन ना करना। इकोनॉमिक जस्टिस मीन्स एलिमिनेशन ऑफ ग्लेरिंग इनइक्वालिटीज इन वेल्थ, इनकम एंड प्रॉपर्टी। ऑल्सो अगर कॉम्बिनेशन की बात करें तो सोशल और इकोनॉमिक जस्टिस का कॉम्बिनेशन डिस्ट्रीब्यूटिव जस्टिस कहलाता है। और नेक्स्ट फैक्टर इसमें है पॉलिटिकल जस्टिस। वो क्या इंप्लाई करता है? दैट ऑल सिटीजन्स should have equal political rights, equal access to all political offices and equal voice in the government. So the ideal of justice क्या हुआ? Social, economic and political justice, ये तीनों मिलके ideal justice बनाते हैं। और ये हमने कहां से लिया है? रशियन रिवॉल्यूशन से। नेक्स्ट इज लिबर्टी। सो लिबर्टी आइडियल्स कहां से लिया गया है? फ्रेंच रिवॉल्यूशन से, जो कि 1789 टू 1799 तक चला था। सो टर्म लिबर्टी का मतलब क्या होता है? एब्सेंस ऑफ रिस्ट्रेंट्स ऑन द एक्टिविटीज ऑफ इंडिविजुअल्स एंड एट द सेम टाइम प्रोवाइडिंग अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ इंडिविजुअल पर्सनालिटी। इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के प्रीएम्बल में सिटीजन्स को लिबर्टी ऑफ थॉट्स, एक्सप्रेशन, बिलीफ, फेथ एंड वर्शिप दी गई है और ये फंडामेंटल राइट्स के थ्रू प्रोवाइड की गई है। और किसी भी वायलेशन की सिचुएशन में ये कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ के थ्रू इन्फोर्सेबल है, और इन केस ऑफ वायलेशन इट इज इन्फोर्सेबल इन द कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ। लिबर्टी इंडियन डेमोक्रेटिक सिस्टम के सक्सेसफुल फंक्शनिंग के लिए बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है। हालांकि लिबर्टी का ये बिल्कुल मतलब नहीं होता कि लाइसेंस टू डू व्हाट वन लाइक्स। इसका मतलब है कि it is enjoyed within the limitations mentioned in the constitution itself, यानी कि ये तब तक आप enjoy कर सकते हैं जब तक कि ये दूसरों को नुकसान ना पहुंचाए। It means liberty is not absolute but qualified. नेक्स्ट टर्म इज इक्वालिटी। तो इक्वालिटी का मतलब है एब्सेंस ऑफ स्पेशल प्रिविलेजेस टू एनी सेक्शन ऑफ द सोसाइटी। मींस सभी इंडिविजुअल को बिना किसी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के समान अधिकार मिलना, ये है इक्वालिटी। तो प्रीएम्बल क्या करता है? प्रीएम्बल ने इंडियन सिटीजन्स को स्टेटस और अपॉर्चुनिटी की इक्वालिटी दी गई है और इसके 3 डायमेंशन है: सिविक, पॉलिटिकल और इकोनॉमिक इक्वालिटी। आर्टिकल 14 टू आर्टिकल 18 इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में इक्वालिटी से रिलेटेड है, जिसमें आर्टिकल 14 इज रिलेटेड टू इक्वालिटी बिफोर द लॉ। आर्टिकल 15 prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth। आर्टिकल 16 क्या कहता है? इक्वालिटी ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी इन मैटर्स ऑफ पब्लिक एम्प्लॉयमेंट। आर्टिकल 17 is related to abolition of untouchability and article 18 is the abolition of titles। इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में पॉलिटिकल इक्वालिटी अचीव करने के लिए दो प्रोविजंस हैं। पहला प्रोविजन क्या कहता है? दैट नो पर्सन इज टू बी डिक्लेयर्ड इनएलिजिबल फॉर इंक्लूजन इन इलेक्टोरल रोल्स ऑन द ग्राउंड ऑफ रिलीजन, रेस, कास्ट और सेक्स। मींस आर्टिकल 325 ये कहता है कि किसी भी पर्सन को इन बेसिस पे उनके साथ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं किया जा सकता। और दूसरा क्या है? दूसरा कहता है इलेक्शंस टू द लोकसभा एंड स्टेट assemblies to be on the basis of adult suffrage। आर्टिकल 326 इससे रिलेटेड है। डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी में भी अंडर आर्टिकल 39 मेन और वुमेन के लिए इक्वल राइट्स का प्रोविजन है। मींस आर्टिकल 39 कहता है राइट टू एन एडिक्वेट मींस ऑफ लाइवलीहुड एंड इक्वल पे फॉर इक्वल वर्क टू मेन एंड वुमेन। सो इसके अलावा भी इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में इक्वालिटी प्रोवाइड की गई है, जो कि हम डिटेल में बाद में पढ़ेंगे। नेक्स्ट इज फ्रेटर्निटी। तो फ्रेटर्निटी का मतलब क्या होता है? सेंस ऑफ ब्रदरहुड। इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में फ्रेटर्निटी की फीलिंग को सिंगल सिटीजनशिप के थ्रू प्रमोट की गई है। आर्टिकल 51A फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज का भी क्या बताता है? दैट इट शैल बी द ड्यूटी ऑफ एवरी सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया टू प्रमोट हार्मनी एंड स्पिरिट ऑफ कॉमन ब्रदरहुड अमंगस्ट ऑल द सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया। अकॉर्डिंग टू प्रीएम्बल, फ्रेटर्निटी क्या बताता है? दैट डिग्निटी ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल एंड यूनिटी एंड इंटेग्रिटी ऑफ द नेशन। ये दो चीजें फ्रेटर्निटी से जुड़ी हुई हैं। इंटेग्रिटी ये जो वर्ड है ये 42nd कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 1976 के थ्रू प्रीएम्बल में ऐड किया था। ये हम पहले भी पढ़ चुके हैं। नेक्स्ट टॉपिक है सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ द प्रीएम्बल, यानी कि प्रीएम्बल का प्रस्तावना का महत्व क्या है। तो संविधान यानी इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का प्रीएम्बल हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की बैकबोन मानी जाती है, क्योंकि इसमें कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के मेन कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं। ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का एसेंस है। जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने प्रीएम्बल को तैयार किया था। उनके ऑब्जेक्टिव रिजोल्यूशन पे प्रीएम्बल ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेस्ड है और इसे कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में अपना लिया गया था। प्रीएम्बल का सिग्निफिकेंस उसके इंग्रेडिएंट्स, उसके घटकों में है। ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के सोर्स को दिखाता है, यानी कि भारत के लोग, पीपल ऑफ इंडिया को न्याय, स्वतंत्रता, समानता, बंधुत्व के आदर्शों से संविधान के उद्देश्यों को दिखाया गया है। इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में प्रीएम्बल बेसिक फिलॉसफी और फंडामेंटल वैल्यूज है, जिसपे कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेस्ड है, यानी कि पॉलिटिकल, मॉरल और रिलीजियस वैल्यूज, इन्हीं चीजों पर हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेस्ड है। प्रीएम्बल में ग्रैंड एंड नोबल विजन भी शामिल किए गए हैं, जो कि क्या रिफ्लेक्ट करते हैं? ड्रीम्स और एस्पिरेशन हमारे फाउंडिंग फादर्स के। सर अल्लादी कृष्ण स्वामी अय्यर, जो कि मेंबर थे कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली के, और उन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मेकिंग में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले किया था। अकॉर्डिंग टू हिम, द प्रीएम्बल टू आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एक्सप्रेसेस व्हाट वी हैड थॉट और ड्रीम्ड सो लॉन्ग। इसी तरह के मुंशी का भी कहना है कि प्रीएम्बल इज द हॉरोस्कोप ऑफ आवर सॉवरेन डेमोक्रेटिक रिपब्लिक। कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली के एक दूसरे मेंबर थे पंडित ठाकुर दास भार्गव। अकॉर्डिंग टू हिम, प्रीएम्बल क्या है? मोस्ट प्रेशियस पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, और ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का सोल है, उसकी आत्मा है। इट इज अ की टू द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, और उनके हिसाब से इट इज अ ज्वेल सेट इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। सर अर्नेस्ट बार्कर, जो कि डिस्टिंग्विश्ड इंग्लिश पॉलिटिकल साइंटिस्ट थे. According to him, it is the opening of a popular book. He described preamble as the keynote to the constitution. And M. Hidayatullah, former Chief Justice of India, उन्होंने क्या कहा? That preamble resembles the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, but is more than a declaration. यानी कि ये डिक्लेरेशन से बहुत ज्यादा है. It is the soul of our constitution which lays down the pattern of our political society. नेक्स्ट टॉपिक हमारा है प्रिएम्बल एज अ पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. यानी कि क्या प्रिएम्बल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का पार्ट है या नहीं, क्योंकि ये बहुत ही कंट्रोवर्शियल टॉपिक है. इस पे बहुत ही कंट्रोवर्सीज होती रही हैं. सो इन 1916 सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बेरुबरी यूनियन केस में कहा था कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में जितने भी प्रोविजंस हैं, प्रिएम्बल उनका एक जनरल पर्पस दिखाता है कि वो प्रोविजंस क्यों डाले गए हैं. फर्दर उन्होंने ये भी कहा था कि अगर किसी आर्टिकल में कोई एम्बिग्विटी है, कोई डाउट है, तो उसके असिस्टेंस के लिए, उसके इंटरप्रिटेशंस के लिए भी हमें प्रिएम्बल को देखना चाहिए, क्योंकि प्रिएम्बल में वो सारे ऑब्जेक्टिव्स दिए गए हैं. इसके अलावा कॉग्निशन ऑफ द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ द प्रिएम्बल की अगर बात करें तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने स्पेसिफिकली ये कहा था कि प्रिएम्बल इज नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. मींस बेरुबरी यूनियन 1960 के केस में कहा गया कि प्रिएम्बल इज नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. 1973 में एक लैंडमार्क केस में, केशवानंदा भारती केस में, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने प्रीवियस रूलिंग को, जिसमें कहा गया था कि प्रिएम्बल इज नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, उसे रिजेक्ट कर दिया और ये कहा कि प्रिएम्बल इज अ पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. इसमें कहा गया कि ये एक्सट्रीम इंपॉर्टेंस का पार्ट है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का और इसको इसके इंटरप्रिटेशन के साथ पढ़ा जाना चाहिए, जिसमें कि नोबल विजन हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रेमर्स का दिखाई दे. फर्दर 1995 में LIC ऑफ इंडिया केस में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि प्रिएम्बल इज एन इंटीग्रल पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. अगर करेंट ओपिनियन की बात करें जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा था, तो अकॉर्डिंग टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट प्रिएम्बल इज अ पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन और इसे हमारे फाउंडिंग फादर्स के ओपिनियन के कॉन्सोनेंस में पढ़ा जाना चाहिए कि उनका इसके लिए क्या व्यू था. लेकिन ये दो बातें यहाँ पर हमें जरूर ध्यान में रखनी चाहिए. पहली ये कि प्रिएम्बल इज नीदर अ सोर्स ऑफ पावर टू द लेजिस्लेचर नॉर अ प्रोहिबिशन अपॉन द पावर्स ऑफ लेजिस्लेचर. और दूसरा क्या है? दूसरा है ये नॉन जस्टिशिएबल है, दैट इज इट्स प्रोविजंस आर नॉट इन्फोर्सेबल इन कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ. नेक्स्ट टॉपिक हमारा है अमेंडेबिलिटी ऑफ द प्रिएम्बल, यानी कि क्या प्रिएम्बल को अमेंड किया जा सकता है या नहीं. तो सबसे पहली बार ये सवाल तब उठा था 1973 में केशवानंद भारती केस में. इस सवाल को उठाया गया था कि क्या अंडर आर्टिकल 368 इसे अमेंड किया जा सकता है या नहीं. इसमें आर्ग्यूमेंट ये था कि क्योंकि प्रिएम्बल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का पार्ट नहीं है, इसलिए अमेंड इसे नहीं किया जा सकता, अमेंडमेंट इसमें नहीं किया जा सकता. लेकिन पिटिशनर का कहना यह था कि आर्टिकल 368 के अंदर उन चीजों को अमेंड नहीं किया जा सकता जो कि बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को डिस्ट्रॉय करते हैं. इसके बाद सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ये व्यू था कि प्रिएम्बल क्योंकि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का पार्ट है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ये जजमेंट बेरुबरी यूनियन 1960 केस के अगेंस्ट था, जिसमें कि उन्होंने कहा था कि ये प्रिएम्बल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का पार्ट नहीं है. लेकिन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने 73 में प्रिएम्बल को कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का पार्ट बताया और ये कहा कि इसे अमेंड किया जा सकता है. लेकिन उस पे एक कंडीशन थी. कंडीशन ये थी कि अमेंडमेंट के द्वारा किसी बेसिक फीचर को डिस्ट्रॉय नहीं किया जाएगा. अब तक प्रिएम्बल को सिर्फ एक बार 1976 में 42nd कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट के द्वारा अमेंड किया गया है, जिसमें कि प्रिएम्बल में 3 नए वर्ड्स सोशलिस्ट, सेक्युलर और इंटीग्रिटी ऐड किए गए थे. और जो अब तक वैलिड है। सो दिस इज ऑल फॉर टुडे। थैंक यू।